everybody, Brian here from Cake Sniffer Acres. If you found your way here, you probably have some of the same Pentair light issues that I'm having. So we had our pool installed 4 years ago. They used Pentair Glow Bright lights for all 5 of our lights in our pool. And what we found is after about 3.5 years, they started to drop. One went out, another one wouldn't change colors anymore, another one went out, and before too long, all of them were all messed up. I went online and did some research, found that a lot of people have issues with the Pentair Glow Bright lights because of an issue with either manufacturing or design. If you can see the housing right here, you can see a huge crack that's formed in the housing, which allows water to get into the light, and then in the end, all of your electronics within the light become fried. Now, typically the process for removing the old light and installing the new light goes like this. So this light is housed within a receptacle on the pool side, and it's screwed in. These tabs actually catch inside the niche that the light fits into, and it's typically screwed in about a 1/4 turn. So what you do first is you get in the pool or get to the side of the pool if you can access your light from the side. They make a plastic tool that fits in these slots that you can unscrew the 1/4 turn to start to uninstall it. What I used, since I didn't have one of those tools, is this spanner wrench that I got from Tractor Supply. So this side is adjustable. You can change the span of these two. So all I did was adjust that to the span that fits the light, unscrewed it the 1/4 turn. Sometimes it's still a little stuck within the receptacle. So if you find that you're just spinning and spinning and spinning and it's not coming out, what you can do is just take a flathead screwdriver and kind of pry in here, use a little leverage and pry it outward, just kind of prying it out of the wall, and eventually you'll get enough of it out of the wall to be able to start to grab onto. From there, you'll go back to your pool equipment side where your lights come out of the ground. Usually they're coming out in conduit. So this is what that looks like. Typically you've got these black covers that sit on top of you. These are the pieces of conduit. This is the conduit that goes all the way out to the pool, that the light cord is fed through. And then, these are ones that I've already installed, and I'm starting to work on this last one, which I'm actually having major problems with, and I'll talk about that later. So what you do is, going back over here to the light cord, is on your old cord, you'll do what's called a lineman's splice, or sometimes called a Western Union splice, to splice the 2 wires together, the black and the white, and tape them up to create a strong loop that's going to be used to pull your mule tape through. And I'll show all of this process later, but this is the mule tape that I used. I got the smallest I could. I think it's a 1/2 inch width. So you'll take your mule tape, tie around the loop. You'll tie, a knot or 2 around there. And then I taped it all up really well with electrical tape. And typically you'll go back to the pool end. And it's often helpful to have a helper that's on one end kind of feeding the mule tape or helping push the knot through the conduit if it's getting stuck at the entrance point. But what you do is go back to the pool side, grab the light and just start pulling. and you're gonna pull your entire length of wire back through, and eventually you'll have the mule tape coming out of the wall within the pool. From there, you're gonna use the mule tape again with the new light and basically do it in reverse. On the new light, you'll tie a loop just like this on the ends. You'll tie the mule tape onto that loop. You will tape it up again tightly, as tightly as possible, because you're pulling it through conduit. So it'll be difficult to pull if your knot is too large and your wad of tape is too big. But then you're gonna use your roll of mule tape, which, at that time, since you pulled it through the conduit, you'll have mule tape going all the way through the conduit. You're gonna just start pulling that wire back through until it gets all the way out through this conduit. So now on to the major issue I'm having. Like I mentioned, I was inside the pool. I was starting to pull on the light to try to pull the cord all the way back through with the mule tape attached. And I have one light within my pool that's about 130 foot run, and it wasn't moving. It was just stuck, absolutely stuck. I was trying to pull with my fingers, pull on this. It's a small lip, and kind of chewing up your fingers. So I actually grabbed my handy gigantic wrench. I hooked it around there to get a little leverage, and I was pulling on the wrench with both hands, and my cable snapped. Inside the wall, not accessible. It actually snapped from where it enters into the light. And now I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out how to get that cable out, and then in the end run new cable through. So those are the problems I'm having, and I'll talk about what I'm going to do to try to get the cable out first, and then eventually we'll talk about how to get the new light installed. So now I'm back at my pool equipment side. So this box I've kind of already disassembled, because if you can see that back right hole, that's where this cable that I'm trying to get out was coming out within this transformer box. And I couldn't access the conduit and the cable coming out of the conduit from that pocket way back in there. So what I did is I took out all these little conduit nuts on the end so that I can pull that off. And this is that conduit that typically goes through that hole back there. So now I'm going to attempt to grab onto this wire and try to pull the wire all the way through, using some different tools. So some options that I'm looking at. I've got this cable puller already, so if I can get enough onto that cable, attach it to the cable puller. I right now have my tractor. I'm going to try to hook a chain up to the bucket and see if I can start to lift it out. If that doesn't work, I'm going to use this cable puller, and over here I have a come along and some chain, and I have some trees kind of in the vicinity that I'm going to try to hook something up to see if I can pull it with the come along. And if those don't work, I don't really know what I'm going to do. So let's see what works. Okay, so here's my setup from the side view. I've got the chain wrapped around the tractor bucket, the narrow end of the chain hooked onto the lip of the bucket. Wrapped it around twice, and then I've got the other end hooked onto my cable puller. So I'm going to try to lift the bucket and see if it starts to pull that cable out of the conduit. Fingers crossed, here we go. Well, I thought I was making progress, but I actually snapped the wire off in the process of pulling. It did pull some, but for whatever reason it didn't hold up. So I'm gonna give it another try and see if it works. Okay, here we go again. Nice and slow. Okay, so I've been using the cable puller. I'm making some progress. I've probably gotten 1.5 feet out or so out of 130 feet, so still a ways to go. But I keep having the sheathing of the cable start to break where it's being clamped inside this cable puller. So I grabbed a couple of cable U-clamps and hooked those on, hopefully to give the sheathing a little extra strength so it doesn't pull off as easily. I'm gonna hook the wire puller, the cable puller back here, and I'm gonna keep trying, and hopefully this makes it better. You can see this is the end of the wire that the sheathing got pulled off of. So time for round 3 or 4 or however many we tried. We have about 3 or 4 feet out so far. I'm gonna go ahead and reposition it back down towards the bottom and keep pulling. All right, I'm excited. There were about 2 or 3 times today, maybe 4 or 5 times today, where I thought there was no chance I was gonna get that wire out, and I had no clue what I was gonna do. I was probably gonna have to dig under the pool deck, try to find the old conduit, reroute the conduit. It was gonna be a nightmare. But we got it out. So cable's out. Next step is to try to fish something through. So options that I've seen are, you know, you can wrap a little piece of grocery bag to a string and try to suck it through with shop vac. You can use compressed air and try to blow something through, you know, with a shop vac in reverse or with an air compressor. My worry is that we've got a whole, I don't know, 80 feet, 75 feet of conduit filled with water now. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to use a vacuum. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use compressed air. It doesn't seem very likely. So I'm going to take a stab at fishing fish tape all the way through. I think it's a long shot that I'll be able to do it. But might as well give it a try. That's, I think, the easiest one. We'll see if it works. If that works, great. If not, we'll have to go on to plan B. All right. So I've got a 240 foot roll of fish tape here. Problem is it's steel, and I don't know that I want to put this in the pool and have it all corrode. So I know they make fiberglass fish tape. I don't know what options I have locally to try to buy what I want and the length that I need. Like I told you before, I need about 130 feet. I'm gonna go do some research and see, if there's a better option than my steel fish tape, because I don't really want to just destroy this. Once I spool it all back up and it's all wet with pool water, it's gonna rust. It already is, a little bit rusted on the ends. So I'll let you know what I find out. Okay, so we've got our cable pulled all the way out of the conduit, and the next step is I'm gonna try to take my steel fish tape and push it all the way from the pool equipment side into the pool side, with the hopes that eventually I'll be able to use it to pull the new cable back through the conduit. I did learn a trick from an electrician who talked about something they do to make it a little easier to push steel through conduit that has multiple 90s in it. What they do is they take 2 zip ties and they cut the ends off. So I just have 2 endless zip ties. They take the end of their fish tape, they wrap one end with electrical tape, kind of like this, that on there, then they bend it over, make kind of like a loop, like that, and they continue to tape it. If I can get this, there we go. And what they do is they take the second one and they put it at a 90-degree angle to the first one. So it's gonna cross at the top, make almost like a balloon shape. They hook on that side, put the tape, and then finally loop it over. Like that. And tape it the rest of the way. And they swear that this makes it easier to push this through the conduit. So, got that. So basically what it looks like on the top, we got them crossed 90 degrees, then we'll shove this into the conduit, and hopefully that'll allow us to push it through all those twists and turns that we have in our conduit a little bit easier. Oh my gosh, that was a lot harder than I was hoping it would be, but it's actually easier than I thought it was going to be. I actually thought the steel tape wasn't going to do it, and I was thinking I'd have to go to the store and probably get some fiberglass tape or something a little easier, fish tape to put through that conduit. But as you saw, I did a little too much. Unfortunately, I don't have my helper this afternoon who was helping me this morning with some of this stuff. But hey, we got it done. We got the fish tape in the pool now. Now we get to the point where we're going to install the new light into the existing niche. Okay, so here I've got my Pentair Micro-Bright light with 150-foot cord. This is a color changing LED light that I'm going to be using as the replacement for my Glow-Bright light. Part number on this one, you can see that it's 620426, again from Pentair. And then there's all the other details on the label. Now to fit a Micro-Bright light into a Glow-Bright niche, you actually need this adapter. This is an adapter that's specifically made to fit the Micro-Bright light into a Glow-Bright niche. It's pretty clear that Pentair had so many issues with the Glow-Bright and they knew people were going to move to the Micro-Bright. So they created this adapter to be able to retrofit a Glow-Bright niche with the Micro-Bright light. The Micro-Bright light is actually a nicheless light. It can fit into, I believe, a 1.5-inch PVC pipe, just as is, just kind of shoves in there. Anyways, the part number on this adapter is 618040, again from Pentair. What I already did is I already prepared these lights to be installed, and what I did to do that was there was a screw-on piece that came with the Micro-Bright light. So imagine this adapter wasn't there at all. The screw-on piece kind of fits on the back, sort of where my thumb is, of the Micro-Bright light, and it would typically screw into a PVC screw-in connector. That's not needed for doing what we're doing today by fitting it into the Glow-Bright niche. So I had to take that plastic ring all the way off 150 feet of cord, bit by bit. And then I had to thread this white plastic adapter all the way on to the Glow-Bright, the Micro-Bright cord, 150 feet. Before I snapped these together, I did take some silicone. You can see at the top, I put some silicone around the back of where the lens comes through this plastic ring. There's also a part where the darker colored plastic of the housing meets a clear color plastic housing. I put some silicone around there just as an extra added precaution, in case that's a weak point, in case water wants to try to find its way in there. I'm not sure it'll do any good, but I guess just a little extra peace of mind. Inside this white adapter is also a black O-ring. You'll want to use the lubricant that comes with the plastic adapter. There's a little pack of lubricant to lubricate that O-ring. And then before we install it, we'll also use that same stuff to lubricate this O-ring, just to make sure nothing gets bound up. It goes in smoothly, it keeps a good watertight seal. After I applied the silicone, I allowed it to dry probably 48 hours, and that made sure it was all cured nicely. And then I actually snapped everything into place while it was still drying, just so I didn't run into an issue with extra silicone causing any problems. So after I applied the silicone, I applied that lubricant to the black O-ring, and then I snapped these pieces together. They just snap in with plastic tabs. You can see there's 3 of them, I believe, maybe 4. And then I let it cure for 24 to 48 hours, just as the silicone was ready to go. And now we're at the point where we're going to prepare this to hook up to my fish tape and pull it back through the conduit. Hopefully that part goes smoothly. All right, so now it's time to prepare the end of the wire to hook up to the fish tape so that we can pull it back through the conduit. So the wire comes with these little wire connectors on them. I'm going to immediately cut both those off because I don't need those. I'm gonna pull back this black sheathing a little bit more, just to give me a little bit more wire to work with. So just cut gently around, trying not to nick the wires inside. Doesn't really matter, I'm gonna be cutting the end off. I just don't want to ruin the structural integrity while we're pulling the wire. I don't want wires to break while we're trying to pull them long distances. So pull off that sheathing. Then I'm going to expose, maybe 2 inches of each wire. That's stranded wire. Do the white. Alright, so now I've got bunches of stranded wire. I'm going to twist these so that they're easier to work with and a little bit sturdier. What I'm going to do is create basically a lineman splice or a Western Union splice of these 2 sides to create a loop that I will then feed through my fish tape. And that will help me make sure I have a secure loop that won't pull apart or anything. So the way to do a lineman splice is I like to do about 2/3, you leave maybe 2/3 of the wire remaining and 1/3 at the bottom, and you cross them, and then I'm going to pinch it. I'm going to pinch it where it crosses there, and I'm going to start to pull one side in tight loops around the other side. So trying to create as tight of little loops around that wire as possible. If your stranded wire starts to come apart, you can just kind of twist it a little bit, keep going. So I'm going to twist it all the way with everything that's left. So that's you can see one side. Now I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to do the exact same thing, wrapping it around the other wire. And what's going to happen is that'll create a really tight interface between the 2 wires. So when we're pulling on it with a lot of force on the other side, trying to pull that conduit through, or pull that wire through the conduit, it shouldn't have any issues. So that's what my finished product looks like. If I pull on both ends as hard as I can't even get it to move. Now what I'll do is take some electrical tape and I'm going to tape that up all the way, just as a little bit extra added protection. So I'll start with plenty of sheathing. Just wrap your tape around and around, trying to pull it tight to keep it as not bunched up. Keep it as small as possible so it can go through the conduit smoothly. It's not very easy because you're putting the tape back through this loop every time, but just do your best. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Here I've got a fold in my tape, which always seems to happen. I may need to break it and do a new one, but anyways, I'll break it there and start a new one. But this will make it a little bit stronger as we're trying to pull it through our conduit. All right, getting there, almost done. Make sure you get enough of the sheathing on both sides too, just for a little bit of added strength. All right, and that's what we've got in the end. Now what I'm going to do is kind of fold that tight, and that's what's going to pull through our loop on on our fish tape. Okay, so now I'm back at the pool side. I've got the light with the box, with the end, with the lineman splice that we just made to make our little loop to pull it back through. So now I'm ready to tie it up and pull it back through. But just to show you really quick how I did the others. So the others were a lot easier than this last one. Like I mentioned, this last one I had major problems with because the cord broke inside the wall, and I had to pull the whole cord out and then try to use the fish tape to fish everything through. What you would normally do is at the pool side, where the pool equipment is, where the wires come out of those little black boxes, you'll unhook your wire on that side from the wire nuts or whatever they're connected to, and you'll make on that side one of these lineman splices. So again, this is at the pool equipment side. The cord you're trying to pull, the light you're trying to replace, find that cord. You may need to tug on it a little bit and have somebody look back at the box if you have multiples. But what you do is make one of these loops, and I bought this, it's made by Goldberg 500 foot mule tape. I think it's a 1/2 inch width. It's smooth, it's really strong. And what I did is I just tied a knot, give a little bit extra, tied a knot on this side, doubled it up, and then what I did was make that as small as I could, and I wrapped electrical tape all the way around the knot and this side to create a nice thin section that I would pull through. And once you have that done, you go back to the pool side and you use the light and the cord that's attached to the light, and you just start pulling it out of the wall, and it'll pull this mule tape into the conduit, and eventually you'll have mule tape running all the way through your conduit into the pool. This end would come out the pool end, and then you'll do kind of what we're about to do, but with mule tape. You'll use the mule tape, and you'll basically tie it to your new light. You'll make one of these on your new light, like we did on our new light. You'll tie it on, and then you'll pull it from the pool equipment side all the way back through, until the cord comes out the other end. It's helpful if you have somebody on the pool side kind of feeding the wire into the wall, because it can get kind of tangled and wrapped up and can cause problems with it going into the wall smoothly. So it is helpful to have a buddy. I'm going to try to do it right now without one because all my friends are gone today. They're all at other things. But anyways, that's how you would typically do it. If your cord doesn't break, you can just use this mule tape or something equivalent on both ends to pull the cord through to remove the light, and then pull it back through with the mule tape to install the new light. But what we're gonna do is use our fish tape, because that's what we that's what we ended up sending through. That's the only thing we could really push through that far. So what I'm gonna do is, I already removed I removed all the zip ties and electrical tape that I put on to push it through. We're gonna take this, you may need to bend it out just a little bit to get your wire on there. I'm going to basically use that kind of a setup to try to pull it back through. And now what I'll do is take my electrical tape and tape this up really well, so I have the least amount of resistance that I possibly can when I'm pulling it back through. See if I can squeeze that any tighter. No, not really. I just don't want to have it hang up on anything, and I know I have at least 4 90-degree elbows in the path that I have to navigate. So I'm just wrapping it tightly around. I'll squeeze this nice and tight to make sure that it's not providing any extra resistance when I'm pulling. Just keep feeding it around. I'm gonna go all the way about, I don't know, 4 inches or so till I get to the sheathing, and give it another inch or so, just for good measure. All right, got that wrapped. So now this is what we're dealing with. You can see I don't have that hook exposed anymore, so that should be less likely to catch. I've got the electrical tape that should glide smoothly through the conduit and then connected to my wire. So now from here, the next step is to go back to the pool equipment side where my fish tape reel is and start pulling. Like I said, it's going to be kind of tedious by myself because the wire may get tangled up. I've got 150 feet of wire that I need to pull through that small hole in the side of the pool. So I guarantee I'm going to have some challenges. But let's give it a try. Okay, so that wasn't fun. As you might have seen, I got maybe 2 feet from the finish line. I had the ball, I was about to cross the goal line, and I fumbled. Frustrating. What happened was the wire in the splice inside the tape actually broke. And yeah, so what I had to do is I had to pull the new lights cord all the way back out. I had to push the fish tape all the way back through again. And now we're back to the point where we need to figure out a better way. So I was thinking about it, having it connected like this almost makes it behave like one wire, so like it really only has the strength of one wire. What I'm thinking I'll do instead is I'll take both wires, I'll loop them through the fish tape over on themselves like this. Then I'm going to tape it all up again. That way I at least have the strength of 2 wires. I think I'm going to peel back the sheathing. Nah, I probably won't. Yeah, I'm going to tape it really well. So I'll show you the finished product when I'm done taping. But this is essentially my plan, is to use both wires as a mechanism for pulling. All right, so we got it all taped up. I did end up pulling the black sheathing back about this much further, just to give it a little bit more wire that I could wrap on itself and create a little bit more of a tape bond for all of that area. So my fish tape head is here. I've got the wires doubled over through there, through the fish tape head, wrapped back to about here. So maybe 4 inches of wire wrapped onto itself. And then I taped it all up really well, making sure to taper the leading end, or the ends, leading end on this side, and taping both sides thoroughly so hopefully it won't come apart this time. Didn't come apart last time, it actually broke the wire. I mean, I'm pulling with almost all my strength back at the other side. I hope I don't get right at the goal line again and fumble, but let's give it another try. Well, with the problems I was having with that last light, I ran out of daylight yesterday. So now we're into today. I'll kind of show you what went wrong, why I think there was a problem in the first place, and what I did to fix it. Okay, so like I talked about yesterday, the issue with the last light is primarily 3 reasons. Number one, the run is really long. It's about, I don't know, 125, 130 feet of run. The light that I'm installing is all the way over by that umbrella, and it had to come under the deck, all the way this way, under this walkway, and then up to the junction box. So first issue, really long run. Second issue, electrical code says that you should only have no more than 4 90-degree turns or bends in your conduit. Well, if you count them, in my case, the way the pool builder installed it, so it goes straight out of the wall. There's 1 90-degree bend going that way, 1 90-degree bend coming this way. Then there was another 90-degree bend coming under the walkway, another 90-degree bend going that way, and then a 90-degree bend going upwards. So there were essentially 5 90-degree bends violating code. If you have more than 4, you're supposed to have a pull point somewhere in between. So what I did is I dug up the conduit. So I found where it was coming out, found where it went under, and I worked all the way backwards. And what was happening yesterday is the cable was getting stuck right there at about this bend. So I carefully cut the conduit back. I used a cable saw and cut around the wire, because there was wire in the conduit kind of stuck there. I wanted to cut it at a point where it was a little bit back from where the wire was stuck. So I cut the conduit there. I added this junction box as a pull point. So now I can pull, just with 1, 2 90-degree bends in the line. So pull from there. So you can see that the wire is out, and I've pulled it the rest of the way out, and I've installed the light in the wall over there. And then I added this conduit. I bored under this little walkway. It's not the prettiest, but I think it'll do the job. And now I'm about ready to pull the cable the rest of the way through. So I'll fish my wire tape down through that box, through the conduit, over to this junction box. Then I'll hook up the cable there, and I'll pull it the rest of the way through. All right, as you can see, a quick update. I was able to pull the wire the rest of the way from there. The wire started there because I had pulled all of it through to this junction box, and then I was able to pull it the rest of the way through the conduit that I ran underneath this walkway, filled it all back in, and lo and behold, they work. I'll show you an update at night just to give you an idea of what it looks like. But man, that project was a nightmare. I don't ever want to have to replace these pool lights again, but I'm afraid, and hopefully more than 4 years, I'll have to do it again if I still live here. But that's about it. Okay, one final note. So as you saw, I was trying to push and pull the wire through the conduit with this Klein Tools 240 foot steel fish tape. Well, as I expected, all the water and everything that got in it, it's pretty jacked up now. So this may need to be retired after that project. What I did for that last little bit is I actually went out and bought this. This is a Milwaukee 100-foot polyester fish tape. Rolls really smoothly. You can see it's kind of a twisted polyester line. It's got this nice rounded metal tip. All the edges are tapered so that it doesn't cause anything to get stuck. Then it has that nice little loop at the end. Now this is flimsier. I don't know if I could have pushed it through the conduit, you know, where I was pushing from the pool equipment back to the pool. I don't know if I could have pushed it the 130 feet with all those twists and turns. It definitely is not long enough. This is only 100 feet. I needed more than that. But pulling it that last little bit, I was still struggling with the steel fish tape with the twists and turns that were in that little last 15-foot section or so. When I went out and got this and started pulling, pulled perfectly. So recommended. I bought this at Home Depot. I'm gonna try to use this by default next time around, and hopefully there isn't a next time for the pool lights, but if there is, I'll probably need to find a 200-foot version of this and then and try to use that. But anyways, wanted to give you that little tip in case you were running into issues with steel fish tape where you're using it around water. This polyester may be your best bet. Thanks. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. I'll show you what it looks like at night. Sometimes the hardest projects are the most rewarding. That one felt like a nightmare for the last 85–90% of it. The first part went so smoothly, but the last part took about 90% of the time. Anyways, I'll show you what it looks like at night. All right, y'all, here's a look at the finished product. So I just have it cycling through various colors. But everything's working, everything's synchronized, all 5 lights are operational. You can see the 3 in the main pool, the one over there on the tanning ledge, right there, and then the one over here in the spa. Like I mentioned, not super dim, not super bright. They're pretty good. The darker colors like red, it doesn't do a great job at lighting up the whole pool, but when it's on white, it actually does a pretty good job at lighting everything up. Anyways, thank you for watching. I know it's a long video. I appreciate the support. If you enjoyed the video or if you found something useful, please do subscribe. I would sincerely appreciate it. And like the video and comment down below if you'd like to see something specific or have any feedback. Again, thanks everybody.